For millennia, there had been one historical event that remained shrouded in mystery: the technological boom of the 1st century. Amidst a plague sweeping across Eurasia, multiple cultures simultaneously developed knowledge on germ theory, as well as producing major innovations in agriculture. Historians have attempted to explain this by positing that the plague forced people to adapt, thus triggering the boom, which would be a sound explanation if it was not for the Maya peoples also inventing them at the same time, despite their isolation of the plague and the greater world. There is also the invention of electricity generation in the form of solar thermal, which coincided with mass steel production to support it, something bearing no connection to the plague. This has led some people to theorize that aliens or some higher power must have given us this knowledge, stemming from all the myths of the period, talking about gods bestowing this upon us. Unfortunately, this was proven true upon first contact with the UGDF, or rather, first official contact. A bright red star, which lasted for several months, became visible in the sky. This coincided with a pestilence, a plague that had started to spread throughout Eurasia, devastating local populations and destabilizing the nations of the region. This is why the plague was often represented by a red star or flower, as the timing made people see it as a bad omen, when in reality, it was just the engine plume of a decelerating Terran engine. The exploratory Terran engine, Pathway to Destiny, had stumbled upon Tellus during an exploratory voyage. Not prepared to stumble upon any civilizations, let alone ones within UGDF territory, the initial orbital images of the cities of Europa and Asia shocked the explorers. It was decided to observe the people of Tellus through biomimetic drones. Through them, they could observe us without being noticed. They used them to scout out our civilization centers, which led them to finding out about the plague. Upon witnessing the suffering caused by it, the ship minds debated at great lengths on what to do. There was no precedent for this. Should they interfere or let us deal with it alone? They ultimately decided to help us. Aside from giving us knowledge on the plague, diseases, and medicine in general, they also give us knowledge on better agricultural practices, such as 4-field crop rotations and mold-bore plows. This was to prepare us for the inevitable population boom from people being able to live much longer, as well as a lower child mortality rate. Basic electricity generation was also taught to be used in lighting cities and communication through the use of solar thermal, thus the need for steel to enable it. After studying us for about a year, our language, our culture, our technology, they came down to Tellus to initiate contact with the biggest civilizations of the time, notably Rome, Parthia, Han, Satavahana, and Maya. To lessen the shock of their arrival, they used the religions of each region to mask their true identity, such as posing as fawns for Rome or as heavenly messengers for the Ceres. They landed in Antioch for Rome, as it was the main gateway of the empire to Asia, and thus the entry of the virus. The UGDF landed in similar places for the other nations, to try and quarantine each country, though out of all of them, we were perhaps the easiest to convince, owing to the fact that the Anawi frames already looked like one of our mythological creatures, the fawn. Coincidentally, something viewed in a good light as shepherds and guardians of the forest, being followers of the god of the forest and fields, Faunus. So it's fitting that they taught us how to better lay the land as well. Being the heart of global trade, Satavahana was of particular importance. Not only did it connect the northern and southern Indian kingdoms, it also connected the east and west. Being Rome's biggest foreign trading partner, most of the eastern trade came from them. And so it also became one of the largest origins of infections for Rome. The crew of the Pathway to Destiny could not reach every single nation, so extensive efforts were made in places of great trade importance, so that the knowledge and material could easily spread to other regions. Intentionally keeping Rome and Han apart, Parthia played a similar role. While Satavahana conducted most of their trade through sea, Parthia controlled the land, owing to the Silk Road, which allowed massive amounts of trade to flow between the two empires. This also meant that Parthia became a hotbed of the infection. The trade routes going through the Silk Road and in the maritime routes allowed it to spread easily from Asia. They started work on these border cities first, before then heading on to the bigger cities and capitals. Some attempts went better than others. While the Romans and Parthians managed to be dealt with little issue, the effects of first contact were catastrophic in places like Syria. The Han Dynasty, already under strain of the plague, descended into civil war not long after the UGDF's arrival. With the plague already being a sign of the emperor losing the mandate of heaven, the indifference of heaven itself, and the disappearance of the Han princess with an unhappy infantryman solidified this even further in the eyes of the peasantry and some members of the elite. The UGDF was forced to choose a side, and so armed the peasantry with steel arms and assisted in battles. Despite their efforts, the life toll was massive, mostly owing to the scorched earth tactics used by both sides and the famine caused by mass crop failures and societal collapse. Though with the UGDF's help, the latter was able to be somewhat mitigated. This eventually led to the creation of the Tian Dynasty. A lesser but still concerning account were the human sacrifices done by the Mayans and Teotihuacans upon first contact. While they had already been doing the practice before their arrival, the arrival of ancestor spirits sent to give them godly knowledge further solidified their belief in it. Despite their lack of centralization, the extensive trade networks between central Maya city-states allow for the easy spread of knowledge, easing and accelerating their work. These two events, as well as many other problems faced during their development, eventually led to the creation of the first contact protocols. The UGDF is not to interfere with the civilization's development, except in cases where the threat of extinction is evident. Contact is only to be made once a civilization has reached a certain level of development, such as setting up a colony in another star system, which is why they only contacted us again after we set up shop in Alpha Centauri. Funnily enough, both instances where the UGDF came across a primitive civilization, they were forced to initiate contact early both times, a play for humanity and a point-watch incursion for the Tamuncha. We really don't know what history would have been like if the UGDF hadn't interfered, but personally I'm glad they did. Hope you enjoyed this small peek at what first contact was like for the setting. I did write a short story about the Roman first contact, a link in the description by the way, so check it out if you're interested. The artwork you see me draw in the background is for the short story. It's a Roman mosaic depicting a pair of Ahnawi giving down gifts of health and harvest, represented by the rod of Asclepius and grapes respectively. This was a pain in the ass to do, would not recommend trying to draw a mosaic by hand. My wrists will never be the same. Besides that, I kinda like making stuff that's narrated from someone else in the universe, in this case by a Roman historian, which is why he calls places like China Serica instead. Even this small video needed me to do a lot of research just to figure out what would happen in first contact, or what the new things would even be called, like America being known as Maya instead, or the formation of the Tian Dynasty, which never existed in real life, it meaning the Heavenly Dynasty, considering how they formed. Makes me respect alt history a lot more. That's all for now. See you all next time.